We're building a brand.
It's really going to turn heads.
Hello, my name is Keith King, the IT manager here at GCubed. I wanted to provide an IT vlog to IT professionals in order to talk about the COVID-19 response. We know that it is a medical pandemic, but we also have to think about the other requirements that come along with that. Day to day, we know how to operate within our office spaces to make sure our IT infrastructure is supported, but what happens when an event happens similar to COVID-19 and now the workforce has to go to a pretty much 100% remote posture? Think about some of the plans that are in place, plans that may not be in place, and things that you can do to make sure that you validate a plan for your organization. Setting a PACE plan is very important to an organization, especially in relation to IT services that is being provided. PACE actually stands for a primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency plan. A lot of times in continuity or IT coup plans, you have to make sure that in the worst case scenario that you have an identified outline plan, and not just plan A, but what happens when plan A, which is your primary means of communication, goes down. You immediately have to go to the next step, which is your alternate. Make sure that you test it, that in case you have to jump services over to that platform, it's set up and ready to go. And in worst cases, sometimes you find yourself going to the third level of that, which is the C for contingency. So you have to make sure that you're testing and validating the requirements for all of your platforms. And of course, the last step, E for emergency. There may be times where there could be a national catastrophe or disaster where your typical IT infrastructure and support is not available, but you have to think through these things. The last thing you want to do is put all your eggs in one basket regarding one platform of communication. That fails, and now you have to move to the next platform that isn't available. So make sure you set that pace, set it early, make sure you validate it and test it to make sure it's ready to go for all phases of the PACE plan. VPN is the main way that the government, or not just government, but clients or customers will use to establish a connection into their network to allow people to still access shared drives and files to continue to do their daily operations. Part of the COVID response, as you can imagine, no one ever thought there would be a time where close to 100% of the workforce would be in a remote posture. And with that, everyone accessing VPN in order to connect into their network connections, VPN networks were starting to crash. So the VPN infrastructures needed to be reinsured and resurfaced and structured in order to support the 100% workforce in a remote posture. In a remote posture and going from on-prem solutions to a cloud solution, a lot of organizations are deciding to completely move their infrastructure support to cloud solutions. So through remote posture, we still have to remember that we do have to leverage some of our cloud support, whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, to make sure that the infrastructure that's set up can support remote work and posture as well. One of the great benefits, of course, of cloud solutions is you don't have to worry about someone being on site in the data center or a data farm or server farm in order to maintain the assets, because everything is remote and it's in a cloud infrastructure. So you're usually utilizing the service provider, whether it is AWS or Azure, to host and house all the architecture and equipment, and you are relying on them to provide you the service. As you can imagine, if you go from having, say day to day on average, let's say about 20%, 10 to 20% of your workforce in a remote posture. The network can support that, right? With VPN, people can still tie in. You won't experience any degradation or any lag in time in bandwidth or network connectivity. But if you go from 20%, 10 to 20% of your organization being remote to about 95 to 100% of your workforce being remote, if you don't make implementation steps in your hardware and IT services, you will see a network degradation or lack in bandwidth and network connectivity. So through that, you have to go back to your infrastructure, see what your maximum capability speed is for your network support, and see if you can increase that in order to better enable the workforce that is working remotely into that posture.